Hate is what mind does. Love, in its true sense, is what consciousness does. That's the choice. So, rioting and fighting the system is just playing in the system's arena. It's playing on in the stadium that it dominates. What's the point in that? You know, we're not going to, and should not even consider, I would suggest, fighting the system. The system holds all the aces there. It's got all the weaponry anyway. And if we fight, we become what we're fighting. Draws us in. It's like Martin Luther King said, the limitation of riots, moral questions, society is that they cannot win. And their participants know it. But more than that, when you riot, when you fight something, you become what you're fighting. And, you know, we can protest, and we can protest, and we protested, and we protested. There was 1 million people on the streets of London protesting at the plan to invade Iraq. They invaded Iraq and killed so far in excess of 1 million people. There are endless protests all over the world against globalization and its injustices. Globalization gets faster. There are endless protests against world poverty, and world poverty just expands. You know, instead of protesting and then going home or going down the bar and feeling good about ourselves because we protested, we need to come together and stop cooperating with the system that is enslaving us and depends on our cooperation to survive. And I would say this, you know, divide and rule. That's how they control a mass of people. They divide and rule them along the fault lines, manufactured fault lines of religion and race and income bracket and all the rest of it, and country and whatever, and culture. And therefore they divide and rule the unity, and therefore the few can control the many, which are in a state of disunity and conflict. And let me make this point to people who think that's a good idea. This is not a conspiracy to enslave Jewish people, or Muslim people, or middle-class Americans, or Hindus, or Australians. This is a conspiracy to enslave the entire human family. Therefore, if we do not come together and in unity and mutual support behind that which affects us all, i.e. our freedoms are being taken away by the day, then let's symbolically sit in a prison cell or a concentration camp eventually, and let's sit round and argue who had the best religion, the best culture, the best race. Let's do that then. We'll have plenty of bloody time if we're still alive. We need to come together, not only in mutual support to stop cooperating with this nonsense, but also in mutual acknowledgement that we're all the same consciousness having different experiences. As Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. People say, oh, I don't mind him being stopped having his freedom of speech because I'm allowed to say mine. I've got freedom of speech. No, you've not. Freedom of speech is the freedom to speak your view and express your version of life. If any one person is stopped from having that freedom, then no one else has freedom of speech. They only have the freedom to stay within the parameters of what is decided they can say. While one person is not free to speak their truth, no one is. They're only free to comply with what the authorities say is acceptable to speak. That's why Keystone Cops, you can go and report back as much as you like. I don't give a shit. I'm going to say what I believe at all times and stuff your bloody letter. In the end, said Martin Luther King, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. The freedom can be taken away when people say, okay, they're having their freedoms taken away, but it doesn't affect me, so that's fine. Oh, and they're having their freedoms taken away, but I don't like them, and I don't agree with what they said anyway, so that's fine. And eventually knock on the door. We're going to take your freedoms away now. Oh, you can't take mine. Well, yes, we can. What was that saying? Pastor Niemöller after the Second World War in Germany. First they came for the Jews, and I was not a Jew, so I did nothing. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I was not a trade unionist, so I did nothing. Then they came for the communists, and I was not a communist, so I did nothing. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. And that's what's happening now. Oh, yes, let's turn attention against the Muslims. Let's turn attention against these people, and these people, and these people. Let's pick them off, and then we'll come for you. Unity is what will bring this to an end. Not looking the other way because it doesn't affect us in the moment. It will affect us eventually if we do that. And look at your children and grandchildren in the face, I say to those people, and tell them what you were doing when the fascist global police state was coming in. What were you doing, mummy and daddy, when this state took over all aspects of my life? Oh, I was watching a game show, honey. It was a good one that night. Or, in terms of people in uniform, oh, I was helping to bring it in, dear. And that's what people in uniform need to understand. They are policing in a state that also affects them and their children. People in uniform, they think they have power. They have no power. The power is in the uniform. They're just there to animate it and do its bidding because the uniform is just an extension of the state. The power of people in uniform is not in them, it's in the bloody wardrobe. That's where the power is. And when they become surplus to requirements, they will be put on the tip like everyone else, and someone else will be brought in to animate that uniform. They're just pawns in the game. And they're pawns in the game that are enslaving not only other people, they're enslaving their own families by playing a part in this. It's time to wake up and grow up and stop playing a part in the enslavement just because we think we're in uniform. These people have families, they have children, grandchildren. But what is there to fear about them? Nothing. What is there to fear about authority? Nothing. We are consciousness. All that is, has been, and ever will be. There is nothing to fear. Whatever happens, we are always that. Mind fears, because it's programmed to fear. When we're conscious, there's no fear in this. It's a shake of the head. Pathetic.